Hello friends, and welcome back to my YouTube channel where today I'm going to be walking you through the steps of how I make all of my cloud dice. Cloud dice are kind of my thing. I make a lot of them and they are also my favorite dice to cast. So in this video, I'll be making 4 different versions of cloud dice, all with a similar color scheme. One set will be made in my brand new, very shiny molds. One set, this one, is made in my molds that used to be shiny but are now very worn out. One set is being made in my fully matte molds, that would be this one, and then the last set that I'll be making is actually a set of blanks, so they don't have the numbers on them right here, but same style, same technique, everything still applies. So with that being said, let us jump into the process of how I made these 4 different sets of cloud dice. To begin, of course, as with all dice making, you're going to need to mix up your resin. You can do mold prep for cloud dice. You can put like different shaped glitter into the molds or flakes, but I'm just going simple and classic here with these ones. So make sure your resin is fully mixed, and then I'm going to be portioning out that mixture. For this part of the pour specifically, I started with 90 milliliters of resin, and I'm doing about 25 milliliters in 3 different cups, and then I'll do 15 in a 4th cup. The larger quantities are going to be for my sky colors or the translucent color. The smaller quantity is going to be for the cloud color or my white, the opaque white that I'll be using. You will also see throughout this video that I use plastic cups. However, I do reuse these cups and I recommend other resin people do the same. I just find that they give a more precise measurement, but obviously they're a bit less eco-friendly, much less eco-friendly, so I do reuse my plastic cups as much as possible. Then into each of the translucent sky colors, those 325 milliliters, I'm doing 1 drop of Resin iridescent glitter, and then going ahead and using my alcohol ink. All of the ink, aside from my white, are Pixis brand. So for this, I did 2 drops of petal and 2 drops of bubblegum for a nice little light pink. And I swear by blue, pink, and purple as my favorite color scheme, so that's what we're doing here. I'm using 3 drops, or 4 drops actually, of their lilac, which, by the way, will look blue when it is mixed. It is not blue. For my blue, I am using their sky, doing 2 or 3 drops of that color as well, and then it's just a matter of mixing those all in nice and thoroughly. I'm using a metal coffee swizzler here. I was asked in another video why I use this. 2 reasons. 1, it's reusable. I wipe it off after every use, and you can also soak it in alcohol once that resin starts to really kind of stick to the metal, so it's reusable, and it is also small enough for me to use easily in these little tiny 30 ml cups, where that blue silicone stick you saw me using earlier would not fit very well and would push a bunch of the resin out because it would fill the volume. So that is why I use a coffee swizzler. You can use all sorts of stuff. For the opaque white that I'll be doing, this is Piñata Blanco Blanco. And again, this is a product I swear by. I only use Piñata Blanco Blanco as my white. A lot of people have expressed to me that they have issues with their white sinking, and the reason that that would happen is because your pigment is too heavy. So either you are using too much of the white, or you're using mica powder or something that is too heavy and is causing it to sink. So I recommend that you start with just 1 or 2 drops, mix it in, and slowly add more as you need it. Then it is just a matter of degassing the resin and it is ready to pour. This first set that I'm working on is my shiny brand new set of molds, so I figured I would do blue, pink, and purple. Starting with the pink, I'm filling it about maybe 1/4 of the way full, and then I will slowly be layering the other translucent colors on top of that, but it's really just a matter of eyeballing whatever volume you're supposed to be filling with. So I try to do about 1/4 for each of these so that it's then 3/4 full and I have that extra 1/4 of space left for the clouds. So here I am going in with my purple. Again, I know it looks blue. It doesn't look blue once it actually goes through the curing process. That is just a matter of knowing your pigments and the inks that you're working with. This will turn purple. But the last color we're going in with is our actual blue. And again, it is really just rinse and repeat. I am lightly putting this color on top of the others. And the reason that you see me kind of swirling my hand with these second two colors is because I'm trying to disperse that color around the surface area rather than just pouring it straight in at a single point in the mold. And because I'm working in batches here and doing several sets at once, I decided to take the rest of that leftover light blue color and use that as the first half of the two color mix that I'll be doing for the matte set. So because in the matte set, I only intend to do a two color split, I'm filling my molds about a third of the way or so full with that really light blue. And then I am also taking the remainder of that really light purple color that looks blue, that is not actually blue, and doing the same on the top process with a little swirl of my hand just to make sure it's all evenly distributed. Then it is time to do the clouds, and so I don't know why I do this, but I do this every time. I'm taking my pipette and cutting the tip of it off at an angle. I don't know if this is helpful. I don't know if it changes how things look or turn out, but I do habitually cut the tip of my pipette every time I do cloud dice. After that, it is just a matter of letting the white suck up into the pipette, and then the motion that I do is I insert the pipette all the way down into the bottom of my dice mold until I can feel it touch the bottom of the mold. I pull up just slightly so I'm not just pushing my white against the bottom of the mold, and then start my swirls squeezing consistently on the little bulb of the pipette. This process is a little clearer to see here when I'm working on my matte mold in the middle, but it is just a rinse and repeat of inserting my pipette pretty much all the way down, lifting up just a tiny bit so that I'm not pushing all of my white into the bottom of the mold, and then starting to squeeze consistently while I swirl it around all different parts of the mold, trying to get a pretty decent distribution of the different areas in the mold. And as you will see throughout this video, that is just what I do every single time. That is the process. Not much more to say about it than that. Here I'm using a little bit more of that excess resin to fill in over the top. Now, if you want a greater cloud presence, you would use less translucent color, more white. If you wanted less of a cloud presence, you would do the opposite. You would use a lot more translucent and then only a little tiny bit of white. After that, those two were done, they got capped, put in the pressure pot, and it is time to work on the second two designs. I had some of that light pink left over, but not enough, I knew, so I added a little bit of clear to it and then went in with some solar color dust hyper hollow flakes in gold. I put this stuff in pretty much everything. And then this is an Aiuli pigment iridescent flake with a really strong pink reflect. I added a little bit of that in too, just to jazz it up a little. And then it's a matter of mix, mix, mix. I knew this would lighten the pink color as well because I'm not adding any extra alcohol ink to compensate for the clear I added. And that is what I wanted. I wanted a nice, really light pink. And that pink color is going straight into my blank molds. For these 2 second sets, I am doing what I refer to as an ink splash in them. So I'm filling my mold about half of the way full this time. Because then what I am going to do, also I'm putting a little bit of extra on the cap because this is a blank cap mold, so I included that here. But what I'm going to do next, after my molds are filled half of the way, is take this cloud blue ink, and then I'm doing 2 drops into each of the different die molds. If this was any other type of ink, I would not do this much pigment. I would not. For most inks, I will do 1 drop at most, usually a drop off of a toothpick to lessen the amount of ink. I'm only doing that much ink because I know this is a really lightly pigmented alcohol ink. Again, it just comes down to knowing your materials. but I'm then going to about 3/4 of the way full with the rest of that pink on top. So filling up a little bit more of my translucent color before going in with the same exact cloud technique that I've been using this whole time, taking my pipette, sucking up the white, inserting the tip all the way down to the bottom of the mold, and then pulling up a tiny bit, starting my squeeze, and just swirling around. For ink splashes, I do try to do a little bit of a different swirl where I'm kind of trying to use my pipette to push that ink color down further into the dice. That's also part of the reason that I fill my mold halfway, put the ink, and then put a little bit more translucent resin on top. I don't only want that ink to be sitting at the cap area of that die. I want it to be kind of pushed throughout a little bit more to bring that color through. And then I just figured I would show, I didn't feel like coloring any extra resin, so I just threw a little bit of clear on top of that, knowing that I also had the pink on the caps and it'd be fine. Then the last little step here is I'm dividing out my resin for our final set of dice, woohoo! This is with Pixis Grape Alcohol ink. Again, this is a purple that when mixed won't look super purple, but it is purple. And then I'm once again adding a little bit of Solar Color Dust Hyper Hollow Gold Flakes, a drop or two of Brea Reese's Iridescent Glitter, and then also using this non-holographic imitation gold leaf as well. And then it will just be a matter of mixing this color up once that gold leaf is placed on there. Even though this is a bigger cup, I'm mixing it with my little coffee swizzler because I'm also using the tip of this swizzler to break up those really large pieces of gold leaf that you just saw me put on the top. I don't want them to stay that big, so I do break them up a bit with the tip of my mixer. Mixer? Mixing device? Swizzler? You get the idea. I'm breaking up those large gold flakes with the tip of my coffee swizzler mixer, and then to color the white, again, I'm just using Piñata Blanco Blanco. As you are learning how to do this, start with 1 drop, mix it in, and then add more if you need it. Don't go off of what you see me doing. I'm already accustomed to what my measurements need to be. Then I'm just really quickly degassing again. You can see those nice bubbles pop, and that resin gets so much clearer with a little bit of heat. Decided to cap that other set so that it wasn't in the way when I was trying to pour this final set. And let me tell you, this is the most dice I have ever poured at one time, and it was incredibly stressful. But we managed it, so now it is time to pour that purple into my dice molds. Just like the other one, I'm doing an ink splash here, so I'm filling my molds only about half of the way full. And then I'm going to be using Pixis Cobalt ink. And like I mentioned, I am only doing 1 drop in all of these dice molds, and that is a lot. I would almost never do more than that, again, unless I'm working with an ink that I know is very much not pigmented. And then, just like with my blank molds, I'm putting a bit more translucent on top of that to help disperse the ink a little bit before I go in with the cloud technique. So adding a little bit more of my translucent color. And then I'll be doing the same thing I've been doing throughout the video, using my pipette, inserting it all the way down, lifting up just a tiny bit so it's not on the bottom of the mold, and then swirling it around while squeezing as consistently as I can, and making a couple little loopy motions to try to push that ink throughout the die a little bit more. And then it is finally the home stretch, so I'm just going to finish up doing my clouds, squeezing that opaque white in there. I will top my molds off with a little bit more of that translucent color, and then it is time to actually put the caps on them, fill up my reservoirs, and put these bad boys into the pressure pot for 24 hours. And while you got to see them at the beginning of the video, this was my first time demolding and seeing the results. So here was the first set, the tri-color pink, blue, and purple. Ended up being a little bit pink dominant, but still incredibly pretty. And my goodness, does that fresh mold shine just have no competitors. So you can see a pretty decent distinction from the side of this D4, from where the pink to the purple to the blue were, and then those nice little light swirling clouds throughout, very pretty. Next, this is the last set that we poured. This is from my molds that used to be shiny but are pretty worn out now, so bear with me on the surface finish. But again, you get that gorgeous purple and gold base with that deep blue swirl of ink throughout. Nice little white clouds, just fluffy and present, not too overbearing but still visible. And really, I was probably the most surprised with how this set turned out, and I really like it. I think it looks great. Then it's the blanks that we poured, so that really light pink with that super light blue swirl as well. And here you can very clearly see the difference between something that is matte versus something that is more shiny or translucent. Yet despite being matte, you can still see the presence of the clouds, you can still see the different colors, you can still see that the technique works the same, just as it does in any other type of mold. And last but certainly not least is our fully matte set with that blue-purple split, nice white clouds. This set has taught me that I like the way that matte cloud dice look, and I'm for sure going to be making some more of these in the future. Although this set specifically is going to become a very pretty set of matte masters for me. But with that, we got through it. That is all that I have for you in this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you liked this video, hey, maybe leave a like. If you have an idea for another video, leave it in a comment. And if you want to see more videos, consider subscribing. And with that, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you learned something, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!